Hey everybody, welcome to Future Consideration, SB Nation, and the internet's premier NFL draft show. That is Matt Ufford, he is our NFL guy.
True fact, Dan watches college football.
This is also true. It is time to get in the latest Mocking the Draft mock draft. Let's start.
They went 2 rounds.
They went double rounds.
Yeah.
But let's just look at the first one.
We're going to look at the first 5 picks and then bounce around the rest of the first round. Once again, we see Jameis Winston going to Tampa Bay.
Yep.
I think we've figured out that, okay, people are leaning towards Winston as the top overall pick.
Lovie Smith has been very outward and public about how much he loves Jameis Winston.
He had a nice long trip down to Tampa.
Yes, that is. Don't ever say it like that ever again.
So we're okay with that. I think that if you're a Buccaneers fan, you're okay with Jameis Winston.
And then we have Leonard Williams to Tennessee, which we agree may have the highest ceiling of anybody in this draft as a pure football player.
Yeah, and the Titans. I mean, who doesn't benefit from a big mauling defensive tackle?
Absolutely, and a playmaker at that. Number 3, we've got Dante Fowler to Jacksonville, who actually, they weren't bad against the pass last year, rushing the quarterback. But when you have somebody that could be that talented from Gainesville, it makes sense.
Sure. And then for Amari Cooper, the draft's best wide receiver.
Yep.
This would be assuming that the Raiders feel that they're set with a franchise quarterback finally.
Right, and Derek Carr, yeah.
You know, maybe they have other places where they have higher need than a game-breaking wide receiver.
Love Amari Cooper, love Kevin White. Don't think they should go in the top 5. We've talked about it before. And number 5, a new addition to the top 5, Bud Dupree, the outside linebacker from Kentucky. Very talented. We saw Randy Gregory in this spot before. They're comparable players because of the position they play. Dupree, a lot bigger, more of a pure outside linebacker, whereas Gregory seems to be now, because of his size, a pass rushing specialist.
Whatever the case, it's certainly a position of need for Washington.
Yes.
It looks like Brian Orakpo is probably going to be leaving in free agency, and even he wouldn't be such an injury-prone player that it's a smart fill for them.
Older gentleman.
So let's bounce around.
Let's do that.
Let's take a look at number 12, Danny Shelton out of Washington.
Love Danny Shelton.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, he fills a need for Cleveland, but above that, as a player, he is so disruptive, forcing fumbles. He occupies so much space. His calves are this laptop. That's basically what he is at physically.
Is that the 13 or the 15 inch?
This is the 15.
Wow.
This is the 15.
Okay,
so yeah,
okay.
That's where Danny Shelton has, and they need the help because they struggled so much in stopping the run.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Browns later on, but actually let's talk about their other pick in the first round, number 19, and Philip Dorsett from the U.
From the U. The Browns have selected so many offensive skill players in the first round, and it has gotten them to not very good places. I like Dorsett a lot. If they are investing in Johnny Manziel as their quarterback of some given unspecified time,
undetermined future,
he needs the help because Josh Gordon not playing.
Josh Gordon taking a year off.
No, he's not going to be there. But Philip Dorsett is a speedster. He's a deep guy, stretches a defense. Any team would be lucky to have him. I don't know if it's the best pick for Cleveland.
And then number 24, a fellow Duck of yours, Eric Armstead.
We're built very similar.
Eric Armstead going to Arizona.
Yes, he's actually built a lot like their star defensive lineman, Calais Campbell, in that they're both 6'8", 300, which isn't a bad size to be.
That's a large human being.
And they do need the depth. They struggled stopping the run at the end of last season.
No, they have Frosty Rucker and Calais Campbell to set at the interior line, but they could use some depth.
That is what he is great at doing, stopping the run. A big, fast, athletic body.
If I were a Cardinals fan, I would rather that pick go to shore up the offensive line a little bit, but really you can do worse than get talented interior defenders.
Yes, and let's round out the first round. Tevin Coleman, a bit of a surprise pick here for the Cowboys, who have yet to make a decision on DeMarco Murray. If Murray is to leave the team in free agency, Tevin Coleman is good, and I think he's going to be a very good NFL back. I would not draft him in the first round. I wouldn't draft any running back in the first round, but it seems like a stretch, but he could be very good. He's a home run hitting type of running back.
Is he the sort of player that is going to be the workhorse, 400 carries like DeMarco Murray
He could be, No, he's built solidly, and he plays really well between the tackles, but at this point, with what Dallas may need other places on the field, and they did take a step forward defensively last year, I don't like the Tevin Coleman pick a ton.
All right. That is our quick and dirty review of Mocking the Draft's mock draft. Be sure to go to SB Nation to get the full 2 rounds and let us know what you think about it.
Spicy.
All right, moving on.
Yes.
Let's talk about the top cornerbacks in the draft.
Let's do that. Yeah, the corner class is not great this year. It's not what we've seen these past few years, but there are guys that can come in and immediately help. At the top of that is Trey Waynes. We saw great tape on him from Michigan State. Michigan State's been producing a couple of nice corners lately.
Cornerback Darquez Dennard.
Cornerback and his size is great. It's actually a very nice class at the top of cornerback size-wise. So the palette with which teams are painting on, the canvas, is great. Trey Waynes is fantastic. In-man coverage, he excels, can play on an island, is physical, wins battles, is just great against the run. He is the surest thing at corner this year.
He's got a good cornerback name.
Trey Waynes. It is very solid. Next.
Yeah, who's your number 2?
This one is a little bit, I didn't know where to put him because talent-wise, Marcus Peters from Washington, I think is as talented at the cornerback position as anybody in this draft. Has issues.
Did not play a full season for Washington.
Was kicked off the team. I was going to say off the field, but like sideline. That wasn't far off the field, his issue.
It's very near field
with
issues.
Coaches. But the good thing about him is he's extremely physical at the line, has a great sense for the ball when it's in the air. Again, you got a 6-footer, great size. So a team that's willing to take a chance on somebody that they think can grow up a little bit and deal with social issues, with coaches, whatever, that's where he's going to land. I don't know if I'd take him in the first round, but he's definitely a first-round talent.
At number 3, we talked about Michigan State producing cornerbacks.
Yes.
LSU.
Year after year after year, you see what Patrick Peterson and the Honey Badger have done in Arizona.
Sure.
We have Jalen Collins. The only knock on Jalen Collins, who has great size, athleticism, jumps out of the building. He only started about 10 games. He's still raw, but Jalen Collins is physical, as we see all these LSU corners so good coming up and gets the run and support. Jalen Collins exactly like that. He may just need more reps.
Who's your number 4?
Number 4, PJ Williams, who I like a lot. Another guy with great size, another guy with great ball instincts, really good in man, presses really well. His motor, questionable, played really well against the best opponents, maybe took a couple plays off against lesser ACC teams, which is a longer list than you'd like. But he's very good.
Are you trying to denigrate Virginia Tech's football program, sir?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. But if he can get more consistent, PJ Williams, great high-end speed, great burst, he's going to be a very good NFL corner.
And your number 5, Byron Jones from Football Powerhouse, Connecticut.
UConn Huskies producing. This is he had a great combine. He definitely did. He leapt out of the building. We saw his record-setting leaps. The one it was like 11 foot something.
It is not easy to make the combine entertaining.
Right, and he did it. But he's more than just a combine all-star. Great awareness for the field. He gets his burst needs to be improved a little bit, but his natural instincts, he's a great leader. He's somebody that you could see needing a little bit of time. I could see him as a 2nd or 3rd rounder just because maybe he needs a little bit more development, but athletically, he is everything.
Ooh.
Yes.
It's not easy to be Dan Rubenstein's everything.
No.
Those are his top 5 cornerbacks in this year's 2015 draft. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Moving on.
Yes.
Shall we talk about AFC North team needs?
What do you think?
Got nothing better to do.
All right, let's do it.
Cincinnati Bengals.
One of the more consistently good, not great teams in the NFL.
If you look at this, the easy joke is they could really use a quarterback.
Yeah.
And yet they're...
I think we said that last year, too.
Yes.
I think we did.
And they answered by recommitting to Andy Dalton.
So aside from quarterback, which they're probably not going after.
You look at this is a pretty well-rounded roster, but one thing they really failed to do last year was rush the quarterback.
Yes, they did. Loss of Michael Johnson was big
and
on
so
that.
they really need a right defensive end. Wallace Gilberry, fun name.
Great name.
A great guy to kind of fill in on limited snaps, but is not the guy that you want starting. So I think that's you want an elite pass rusher.
Yes, you do. Because Carlos Dunlap has the other side absolutely locked down.
Fun fact, J.J. Watt and Justin Houston both had more sacks individually than the entire Bengals team last year.
They need to improve upon that. Because it's not a great quarterback situation. I'm just talking about Cleveland, actually, now. I'm sorry.
And then outside of quarterback and defensive end, they could really use a new offensive guard.
Yeah, they need to build the interior of their offensive line and depth on the outside of the offensive line.
They've got Andre Smith and Andrew Whitworth, but free agency's looming for them. They need to either re-sign or they might be facing a situation where they're going to need to groom their successor.
It's almost a situation where maybe they go after an offensive lineman who perhaps will fall because of injury or something like that and give him a year to develop and then he can step in.
Maybe that collegiate tackle who can move to guard for a year and then you can groom him to be a right tackle, something like that.
All right, next up.
Next up would be the Cleveland Browns because I feel like going about
Hold
this.
on, I'm going to stretch.
Yeah.
We need some time for this.
And like Cincinnati, you can joke, hey, they could use a quarterback. Brian Hoyer is a free agent.
Right.
And Johnny Manziel.
So they invested last year in the draft in quarterback, and they've already invested this offseason.
They've invested too much in quarterback, so they're probably not going to do it in this year's draft.
So outside of that.
So let's talk about the big thing, wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
Josh Gordon, not going to be playing this year.
Right.
And we talked about it with the mock draft, addressing wide receiver and also defensive line.
I'd actually like to see them not even worry about receiver at this point.
Yeah.
If you don't know who's going to be throwing and you probably know they're not going to be all that successful, figure out places where players can be successful.
Sure, I think that. And one of those places would be the interior defensive line.
Yes.
They had 11 different starting D-line combinations in 2014. They need some consistency and talent in the middle of that D-line. And then how about cornerback? Buster Skrine is a free agent. He's really good.
Very good.
And then last year's top draft pick, Justin Gilbert, massive disappointment.
Right.
And this isn't just the usual like rookie cornerback shakes. Like he was not even getting on the field.
He was defensive Manziel without a lot of the issues, but they knew something about, like, for whatever reason, he was not ready to play.
And then how about another pass catcher? Tight ends, Jordan Cameron looks to be leaving in free agency.
A surprise star for the Browns.
They got some needs. They got the draft picks, but they got some needs to fill.
All right, next.
Oh, how about the Pittsburgh Steelers?
How about them?
Excuse
me. How about them, Sonny?
The thing that jumps out about the Steelers is this is an offense that scores points.
Yes,
Averaged
they do.
31 points per game over the last half of the season.
They've been very much plug and play.
And when you've got Ben Roethlisberger and you've got
Le'Veon
Bell, and probably the most talented wide receiver in the NFL last year, Antonio Brown, just super consistent. But they do need a backup running back. Le'Veon Bell was a workhorse, but then they really worked. You
cannot count on running back help.
You can't do that without a reliable backup. And Dre Archer is just too small to
He's
be.
A smaller,
to
situational type back.
Yeah, he's a scat back.
A scat back.
And then outside linebacker. Jarvis Jones got one side locked down.
God, is he good.
He's really good.
Yeah.
On the other side, though, they had to turn to James Harrison, who will be 37 soon, and he's a free agent.
Watch your mouth.
Yes, and he's gonna hear me say this.
He will. No.
Yeah, he'll find me, and that's my own problem to worry about.
And behind outside linebacker.
The Steelers' problem to worry about is that position because they need some youth and talent.
And they've traditionally drafted very well in the front seven.
Yeah, they have, and they just need to draft those players.
Yes, and behind that front seven, what are their issues there?
The secondary.
Yeah.
And it's time to finally shed some of the aging pieces.
It is. They've given him a ton.
Any Steeler fan will go on and on about how much they dislike Og Taylor and how much they love Troy Polamalu, but it's time to move
2006,
on.
Troy Polamalu,
When the Steelers are saying, we hope you retire so we don't have to cut you.
You legendary Hall of Famer safety, we love you.
So they've got players penciled in as starters. Cortez Allen and William Gay at cornerback, and then Mike Mitchell and Shamarko Thomas.
Great name.
Shamarko. But they don't know if Shamarko Thomas is going to be the answer at strong safety, and Mike Mitchell a disappointment at free safety.
Give yourself some options.
So they're going to want some more options in the secondary.
Let's round out the North.
That would be the Baltimore Ravens. I just bounce around randomly.
All-star drafters. The Ravens.
So good. They always get that undervalued defensive piece late in the first round.
Terrific at evaluating.
Year after year after year. So their biggest needs, though, are on the other side of the ball. Tight end, Owen Daniels, free agent. Dennis Pitta keeps injuring his hip.
Yep. As golden retrievers do.
Yes, it's something about the breed.
Yeah, it is something about the breed.
And then wide receiver Steve Smith, 36 years old, and he really, after a blazing start, really fell off the second half of the season.
That'll happen.
Torrey Smith looks like he's going to be leaving in free agency. And you want an option so that, Marlon Brown is not your starting wide receiver.
That would probably be for the best.
And then defensive end, Timmy Jernigan is great.
Oh, he's really good.
But it looks like Pernell McPhee, who's super talented and gave him great depth, 7.5 sacks on limited snaps last year.
Right.
You just want to refresh that pool.
Yeah,
and I'm sure the Ravens are way ahead of me on this. But
the Ravens are terrific, not just at drafting, but realizing which free agents they can afford to let go and where they feel comfortable replacing. Yes. And it appears along that front seven, they are quite comfortable.
And then in the secondary, the Ravens, their weakness last year was their cornerbacks could not stay healthy. They put, I think, at least 5 on injured reserve.
Build that depth.
Jimmy Smith is great, but he injured his foot. Ladarius Webb has had injury problems as well.
Yep.
There's talent there, but they need to refresh it. Refresh that little talent.
I don't like you doing this. This is a very weird motion for you to be doing, talking about the Ravens.
Refreshing a pool.
Please never do that ever again. But yeah, the Ravens are in good shape.
As it is, we're done talking about AFC North, and in fact, we're done with the entire episode of Future Consideration.
We are indeed. Another great one.
So thank you for watching. Until next week, have a good one.